about your latest? I mean, you've been writing since what, the 90s?
Well, actually, since the 80s. I look like a spring chicken. I know you're thinking this guy's 25 years old, but no, I've got a few years on that. When I was 12 years old, I knew I wanted to be a writer. I love the idea of telling stories. I like movies too. In fact, the only crime I've ever committed, don't tell anybody in Glen Ellen, Illinois, but I snuck into the movie theater to see a movie. I think it was a James Bond thriller back when I was probably 8 or 9 years old.
Oh, wow. And where did your mother think you were?
We're not going to, well, we're going to keep that a secret if we could. It wasn't at church, though. She knew I wasn't there.
Okay.
I'm joking a little bit, but I love the idea of telling stories, and I knew I wanted to write popular commercial fiction. I wrote my first book when I was 12 years old. And it was garbage, there's no question about it. I actually enjoyed doing the cover illustration more than writing the book, but the fact is, it was a book. It had a cover drawing, I said. It had the first chapter, the second chapter, and then the end. And it was kind of a spy story. I knew then that I wanted to tell my stories.
And was it, so it was a spy story,
Yeah.
and tell me more about what The Cutting Edge is about, because that's not quite a spy story, but it definitely has action in it.
The Cutting Edge is the 11th in the series that began with The Bone Collector, a book you happen to be holding right now.
And when did The Bone Collector come out?
The Bone Collector novel came out in 1997, a long time ago. Turned into a movie with Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie in 1999.
Detective Lincoln Rhyme was New York City's leading forensic cop.
I've written 11 books featuring Lincoln Rhyme, the character that your viewers may know from the Bone Collector, the Denzel Washington character in the wheelchair. He's a forensic detective, but he's a quadriplegic. I never thought the book would take over. I never thought it would be popular, but for some reason people fell in love with the idea of a character who uses his mind as his #1 weapon.
What made you latch on to that kind of a character?
Excellent question. There's a kind of a joke in Hollywood, and of course you're involved in this industry as well, that when a producer is looking for a new product to turn into a movie, he or she wants something that is completely original, never been done before, and yet has been wildly successful in the past. And it's kind of an ironic joke, but there's a grain of truth to that. The past, for me, has been writing a series of thrillers that fall into this, I guess what I'd call a template. They move very quickly. They take place over about 2 days. There are lots of twists and turns. They have 4 surprise endings. That's my trademark. Of the 40 novels I've written, that's the Jeffery Deaver trademark. But at the same time, while I'm going to give my readers that prototype, I want to give them something different. And I thought, what could be more different than a hero who cannot outkick the bad guy with karate, cannot pull out a gun that he had hidden sometime in the first act, and then he remembers at the very end, oh, there's a gun under there. He pulls it out, shoots the bad guy, we yawn, we go out to dinner after the movie, the thriller movie. What about a character who, as I said earlier, had to outthink the villain, uses his mind, and that's Lincoln Rhyme.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and he has to get help. He can't do it by himself. I mean, being a quadriplegic, how could he?
Exactly, and he's got 2 people who help his life a great deal. One is Tom, his aide, his assistant. They call them caregivers, who's a bit of a, well, let's say he's immune to Lincoln's curmudgeonness. But then who else do we have? Of course, we have Amelia Sachs, his sidekick.
I want you to work the case with us.
Forensics is not my area.
Are you being modest, or are you a little uneasy about doing some real police work?
He needs her to go where he can.
And she's the one who gets down into the crime scenes and then goes out and pursues the bad guys, because these are action adventure stories. You know, these are not happy little kid stories. We got to get the bad guy in.
Well, and in the movie The Bone Collector, it's Angelina Jolie. I mean, when you were thinking of this character, did you envision someone like her?
Does it get any better than that? Denzel Washington, because you know what's interesting about both of them? There are movie stars. We know there are movie stars. And then there are actors. It's very rare for that to be combined in one person. They are both actors as well as movie stars, so they have that screen presence. But of course, Denzel does art films as well, or I would call them, quote, literary films. And Angelina Jolie has gone on to direct very meaningful and important films, as well as doing what I enjoy. I call them the shoot 'em up commercial novels, which I'm delighted to do.
Yeah. Well, and And then with this series, The Bone Collector, you have a new TV pilot coming with it.
That's right. That's right. The title is called Lincoln. Now, it's based on the movie The Bone Collector, but all the other books as well. And we see here a couple of them, like The Coffin Dancer features Lincoln Rhyme as well. The Cutting Edge, the recent one, features Lincoln Rhyme. So the folks at NBC are combining all of the books into the series. Now, you know how Hollywood works.
Right.
They're going to shoot the pilot, then they look very carefully at that Arbitron ratings or whatever one does nowadays.
I know you've written multiple books in this series. What's your favorite book?
The answer, Melissa, I'm so glad you asked me that. What is my favorite book? The next one, the one I'm working on right now. And since you asked, it's called The Never Game, and it's about a series of murders in Silicon Valley.
That's like the hub, that's the center of it.
It is. That's a good place to kill people. I've enjoyed doing
Lots
that.
of people
if there are any law enforcement in your viewership, and I'm sure there are, I make all of this stuff up. Don't worry.
Right. Now, speaking of law, you went to law school.
I did. I went to law school. I practiced law. People say, well, Jeff, you write all these criminal books, 40 books about crime and murder and so forth. You must have been a criminal lawyer. And I say, well, you draw your own conclusions. I represented banks. And the fact is, this was 30 years ago, I did represent banks, but interestingly, this was a time when banks did a really good thing. They lent money to people who could pay it back.
Yeah.
Not like nowadays when there's all kinds of funny stuff going on Wall Street.
Yeah, well, you know what? Thank you so much for being here with me today, Jeffrey. And we are really excited to read The Cutting Edge, to check out your Lincoln is the name of this new TV series.
show, that's right.
And thank you so much for being with me here on the Book Talk.
A real pleasure chatting with you.
Hi, I'm Single Payer Healthcare, and this is the healthcare system in America today. Did you know as Americans we pay over twice as much for healthcare as any other country? Twice as much. Now you might think that means we're the best, but does this look like the best in the world? According to the World Healthcare Organization, the United States is 37 in the developed worlds for healthcare. 37! We need to be better than 37. I want to be a part of the solution. Check out the book, The Purple World by Dr. Joseph Q. Jarvis, and learn how single-payer healthcare can help heal the harm in our American healthcare system.
You guys, this showcases our chance to get seen.
We were next door rehearsing for the big show, and we thought we'd drop by and see how you guys are doing.
Thought we'd give you some actual talent in the room, like you troglodytes.
What is their deal?
They've always been like that, ever since high school.
Let's do this.
You and me together. You and me together. Rated PG, coming April 19th.